when was the last time United made like a big boy sale?
Ronaldo, probably. Let's be fair. So Ronaldo left in, what year was it?
2009, was it?
2009. He left in 2009. He was signed for about 80 to 20 million and was sold for 80. So 60 million profit. And then that was mental. Like in 2009, that was just ridiculous money. But since then, there's only been, since Ronaldo, I might be wrong, I think only Dan James has come back with either the same amount back or made profit. Maybe Di Maria may have been the same amount or maybe a little bit less, but they don't make profit on players. They go and pay stupid money for players and then they're unable to then get the players out. Phil Jones had a new contract. Like, I don't think anyone can explain why he got a new contract.
Phil Jones.
That's an example of just ridiculousness. And then you're spending so much money on players, having to then owing clubs on transfer fees, which is why the financial fair play is coming in. I think they owe 400 million or something in transfer fees. And they're not allowed to spend money now because they've got to pay that off still. And then you can't get players out the door. But then the players are trying to get out the door if they're going off rumours and stuff. I think they said like 15 million for Fred, 35 million for Maguire. I can't remember, there's other players as well. But to me, I think that's a fair value. Like 15 million for Fred, I would say is fair. You know, he's got plenty of Premier League experience. But Fulham won't even pay that. Right? And that's probably looking at, that could be the reverse to what we said about the United tax last week. Players know United need to sell, they can get them for less. This is how much of a mess United are in. It's like teams are just taking you for granted.
Yeah, and they don't help themselves, do they? Because I think maybe the best example for me is Paul Pogba, who we'll get onto the youth later, but he was a youth player at Man United in their academy, left for free or minimal transfer fee to Juve.
Yeah,
became a star at Juventus and the next hottest thing in football.
Yeah,
joins Man United for around 90 million. Goes back to Man United for a world record £90 million transfer. Has a pretty mediocre time at United. Leaves on a free again, back to Juve.
I have a different opinion on the Pogba situation just because of how he left the first time. The first time he left, he was very arrogant. He felt he was the next big thing. He was going to be a great player, but Fergie was like, "You need to like chain it in. Like, you'll get your chance, but you're not having it yet." And I think Fergie, I can't remember which game it was. He made a point when he was being a bit of a prick of, instead of bringing him in, he played someone out of position in midfield rather than using Pogba and left him on the bench. And that's when Pogba left. And that's like, well, if the manager says you will have your chance, but you're not ready yet, and you're going to keep having a bit of an attitude, you're going to get out of the door. Every man, that's what good managers do. They've got to keep, the good vibes going. And that was how he left. And I think people always go, "Oh, he left for free and he signed it for 90 million." But that's why he left for free, because he was being a dick. So simple as that. You're going to let players go, and that's the one time when a player turns out to be an absolutely amazing player, and then he's come for 90 million, and he's not. If you're buying a player for such high money, especially when you're breaking records, they should be able to do it on their own. You shouldn't be going like, "Oh, we didn't have the team for him." No, we should be able to go in that midfield and change the game. Yeah. And the only game I can think of where he changed the game was the Manchester Derby when they were 2-0 down at half time. Yeah. I don't know another game where he's come on and absolutely just shown what he can do.
Yeah, but then you can't then lose him for 90 million.
No, exactly. And for 90 million, he's having injuries and stuff. And then you've just basically let him just, I don't know if that's the right word, but stagnate on the bench and just, you can go now. It's exactly like, sell him.
Exactly.
Sell him for 40 million. Yeah. Get something at least.
Mm-hmm.
It's like with the whole like Harry Kane at the moment. He's leaving genuinely going to let him go for free next year rather than, because I think if I was United, I'd be like, right, put a bid in the last week of the transfer window for 60 million. He's got a choice of paying getting 60 million for him or let him go for free next year.
Yeah,
so
definitely. So that's interesting. So you think that there could be like a sort of United tax equivalent in terms of selling players as well, like teams see United in a position of weakness.
Well, if I think Fulham getting Fred for 15 million, I think that's great business. I mean, both sides, but apparently they won't pay it. Buy for 2 million is worth a risk for 2 million, and that's what United have asked for. Whereas other teams would be, for that type of player, we're getting 10 million, 20 million for.
Yeah.
So potentially teams probably think United need the money. We'll put a bid in to just test the waters. United just going, yeah, take him.
And even
but because there's players that have been there for 7 years rather than a year. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, exactly. And even like the youth system, like if we look at, let's say, I mean, it happened yesterday, I think, Trafford, who's played once for Man City, I think in a cup game or something. I've barely heard of him. I've not seen him play. He's now, doing quite good at the England under 21 Euros, or the World Cup, or whatever that competition is. And he did well on loan at Bolton. I know that much. But again, that's a player, including his add-ons. That's around £20 million for a youth.
We can agree that's stupid money. But how are they able to do it? It's just good business, isn't it? Like, 20 million is a lot for a player that's not even played, that has played League One football at the top. It's a lot of money, but potentially it's the investment of having a number one goalkeeper for the next 10 to 15 years in the Premier League, and it's fair investment. But how are City, for example, able to do that? And they did it with Bavuna, was his name Bavuna, the keeper for Southampton?
Bazunu,
sorry, and Lavia.
Yeah, loads of players. Yeah.
Making money and letting players get first team football. It's not about. I don't think it's about quality, because some of the United youth players are brilliant. They're not. They've sold Laird and Iqbal now for 750k each, right? And it's got the 10% sell-on clause. I think 10% sell-on clause. I think it might be 40% actually.
Right.
Sell-on clause on the Iqbal contract especially, and then like buyback clauses and stuff, which is fine. But only 750k, is mad, and he's going to Utrecht. It's not a
where? Sorry,
Utrecht in Holland.
Oh,
it's
right.
not a big team. He's going to like very mediocre Dutch team.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking to myself, what's the plan there?
Yeah.
You could get for Iqbal 50 million easy. If he was in City's academy, you'd be getting 20 million for him. So it's clear the way the club's being run.
Do you think there's almost a Man City academy tax in terms of like they've been?
But that's why it's weird, because it's nothing to do with quality. Like I said, I don't think it's anything to do with quality. I'm not saying the City players are bad. I'm not saying the United players are bad. I think they're all on the same par. But when you've got like Iqbal, who has been on the bench in the Premier League, he has played amazingly in pre-seasons, and he's played in a couple of cup games. He's had that more experience than half of the City players that they've been selling have. But you can't sell them for a good amount of money. You're selling them for buy-on clauses.
Yeah, and it's
a tactic to get them out off, like, it's obviously not a lot of wages, but get them out of the club, get them playing because they want to leave and play first team football, and then have the opportunity to buy them back in the future. It could work, it might not. But again, when you've got a financial fair play situation, you want to get them out for money. You need to get money in the club. Yeah. So go and make money. I just don't get it.
Definitely, and especially in United's FFP scenario, a good academy which regularly produces talent and therefore money is a pretty easy source of good money. So, like last season, for example, we signed Haaland on however much, and we signed Phillips on however much. We actually ended up making like 50 million profit or something when you take into account the academy because of
exactly
Bazunu and Lavia and the Dozy and all of these other players that we've sold in the past. Like this season, it's now Trafford and Carlos Borges, who's another winger. He's been touted as, going to Forest for like 10, 15 million or whatever. And it's just like these are players who, most City fans who don't watch, who only watch the first team, don't really know much about them. But
the players that would never have a sniff in the first team, like if you look at like Foden's the only one that's broken through properly in God knows how long, which tells you how because of course you're the Premier League champions, it's going to be very difficult to break through.
Yeah,
but they're both creating both United and City creating such good young academy players, but one's able to then shift them off for good amounts of money to allow the team to keep building, whereas the other is just like, get it for pennies. And it's, again, that's a prime example of where it's poor investment.
So is that about... So City and Chelsea are obviously very, very infamous for doing it as well. Even Liverpool, you think of Brewster, they managed to sell him for like 30 million quid or something insane.
Solanke.
Yeah. So
That's 50 million for them to.
Yeah. So why can City, Chelsea, Liverpool, etc. do that? But it's just the way United are run.
The only thing I put it down to is the club's run horrendously poorly at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Horrendously poorly.
And I'm guessing you think that can only change if like the current owners leave.
Yeah. The only solution United have, because it's been so long, is literally new owners and just dismantle from the ground up and just go from scratch. That's what's needed.
Yeah, because it's a pretty, I mean, when was it? I know it's like talked about a lot, but rightly so. The class of '92, where they had 5, 6, 7 in total academy graduates who were involved in the first team, and now, and I know that United have this.
Not even like the first team. It's more of 10 years ago. You'd look at lineups across English football. There was a United graduate in every team.
Yeah,
every team. There's just one everywhere. Now they're nowhere.
That's what I was going to say. Obviously, aside from like Rashford, who does currently play, and he who shall not be named. When was like the last time that unless I'm missing someone, when was the last time like United produced a really good academy graduate who maybe didn't play for United but did play for someone else?
There might be some that are missing, but not for a while.
No,
like post Fergie, Rashford's the main one. And then he shall not be named.
Yeah.
And then that's about it, really.
I'm not counting Pogba because they signed him from an academy in France.
No.
Yeah.
No. Obviously, like Garnacho as well, but he was signed from Atletico Madrid. But
it's tricky, isn't it?
Really. Yeah. It's probably something like, there probably would have been something like the early noughties and stuff, but nothing that stood out like the 92.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that what we're seeing now with City is the fruits of labour and respective investment. Like, when the new owners came in, they were very ambitious to start with. They said, by X year, we want like 5 or 6 academy players in the starting 11. Obviously,
because they invested like 200 million, didn't they, into the whole situation.
It was a lot, but now, that was what, 15 years ago. So those players who were like, 4, 5 or whatever, and now 19,
being sold for 20
and being sold for easy money, or Rico Lewis, Foden, Palmer, McAtee, these players are coming through and actually being involved in the first team. So I think it starts with investment in your own academy.
It does, but like we said about the Glazer situation, where there was a massive nearly 6-7 year gap of not investing and breaking the transfer records, which they always would do.
Yeah,
is the owners just don't put money in; they take money out. When you look at the stats about like the ownership and how much they invest, they're on minus, United, because they're taking money out of the club. And that's the problem. They're not investing anywhere. So, yeah, and that's why players are having to go for buy-on clauses is the easiest way to do it. Selling clauses is the easiest way to do it.